Hey, Rob, can you say something real quick?
Something.
Oh, cool. Can you hear?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
You need me to turn my mic up or?
You're gonna need
Yeah,
to.
can you turn it up a little bit?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right. How's that? Oh, now you guys are muted. Whatever you were changing when I went to go turn my mic up is what did it. Oh wait,
Can you hear us now?
now I can. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Neat. Awesome. Thanks, Rob. You can hear us well? Awesome. I love that background.
Yeah. No, I can hear you all right. I'm gonna turn your bass up a little bit.
Cool. All right, perfect. Perfect. Well, welcome back. As we've explained before you came on, we are having Rob Loggia on. This is, I think, our third interview with you, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
And how would you describe yourself, Rob? We described you as a writer, a blogger, and campaign manager. Anything we're missing here?
Human being.
Yeah, human being. There you go.
You know, more than that, what can you say? We all do things, but it doesn't have to, define us.
Right. Well, thank you very much for coming back on. I think last time we talked was before COVID-19, before election season, before John was arrested, before everything hit the fan pretty much.
Yeah, but before 2020.
Yeah, exactly. Before 2020.
Exactly.
Spoke at the end of maybe towards the end of 2019, right? Or actually, no, I think COVID was just happening. You asked me on the last time because I had written that article on how we ought not to be handling it, which is, of course, exactly what happened. But
oh yeah.
Yeah. So right at the beginning is when we talked. The world was still a little calmer, but people were starting to lose their heads a little bit. Nothing like this now.
Can you go over that article again briefly and give us a summary of what you were talking about? And then I know I just heard you comment that we did the opposite of what you suggested. Can you delve into that a little bit?
Well, the world usually does the opposite of what I suggest. I'm used to it. I suggest something. Well, so you start using reverse psychology. Everybody should just lose their fucking minds, right? And go crazy and start acting like Nazis, and then everybody would have been calm. I mean, if you look at what was said at that time when there was a lot that was unknown about the virus, people knew this thing was hitting the shores. They had video coming out of China, all kinds of fucking crazy shit. And, there was a lot of uncertainty. So I felt it important to try and at least interject something into the record to say, let's keep our heads, remember where we are. We see the way China responded to certain things, and I don't want people getting ideas. It wasn't quite as bad as all that in most of the United States, but I mean, from other what we would call Western nations like Australia, we get video of people their car windows being smashed, and they're being dragged through the window by a police officer. I mean, that when I look at that, to me, that's right out of China. Same fucking shit. Looks the same to me. the people look different, but it's the same fucking thing. So,
Well,
you
now
know,
China is sort of touting their success and saying all the restrictions we put on were valid, and they're like pretty much saying, "Look at us, you guys fucked up."
I have a prediction for the two of you tonight. I bet the first thing Trump does in the debate is try to grill Biden on his ties to China. I guarantee he calls him out on being tied to them.
Yeah, with the Hunter Biden scandal. Have you been keeping up with that?
how does anybody keep up with anything these days? I've been watching it all fly by like everybody else. The shit's going. We've hit in the vernacular that I would use is ludicrous speed, dude. You saw Spaceballs, right? We've hit ludicrous speed. This is it.
Yeah, I guess. Well, the first question I wrote down, and sorry, I sort of interrupted your first segment about what you wrote, but I was going to ask you, what do you think the State of the Union is right now? If you were to give a mini State of the Union.
But before that, I want to say, it looks like you lost some weight. How are you doing on a personal level with COVID-19?
You think he lost weight?
Hey, he looks a lot skinnier than the last time we had him on.
Oh.
I might have had a beard, but no, I've been actually maintaining this weight for about 20 years. I plan to do so for.
That's how we are too. We can eat or not eat as much or little as possible, and we'll stay the same.
And it don't matter. Yeah, we're the lucky ones. Listen, man, I was at death's doorstep back in March, so yeah, I'm not about to go and get tested. I expect that I was infected.
Oh, really? Wow.
I have some lingering health effects that I attribute to being sick that time. So God only knows. It was brutal. It was brutal. But
so you had it? You didn't get tested though?
No. I suspect that was it. I was, like I said, I lost pretty much the month of March to being incapacitated, and I did my best to keep up, with the things I had to do. But it was bad enough that a lot of people noticed. I deal with most people in the course of my work and in the course of life remotely. I mean, obviously, I have my local circle of people, and they see me, but. If you recall, then I mean, people were just isolating as a matter of course. There really was nothing to do. In terms of taking additional steps. Nobody was.
How do you think we fucked up? How do you think we fucked up during this whole COVID thing? Do you think we could have had much less deaths, or do you think we're sort of like 200,000 is on the low side?
That's the wrong question, dude. Death surrounds us constantly and at all times.
Right.
And the sooner people become comfortable with that grim reality, I'm not going to paint a happy face on it for you, but I'm not also going to say that it's not there. You walk outside and that tree that you've been walking past for 55 fucking years decides that day its roots are not stable and that tree's going to fall and it's going to hit you on the fucking head and kill you. And there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. What's that?
That actually happened in our hometown recently. Some lady just got hit by a tree and died.
Yeah, sure, fucking hit by a tree.
Yeah.
He probably saw that tree every day for the last 60 years, and it doesn't matter. There's nothing she could have done. She wouldn't have known to cut it down. This is the reality. Now, human beings, we're flesh and blood. We have our Achilles heel, viruses, bacteria. These are all able to infiltrate our bodies. We've been living with this shit for a long time, as long as people have been around, and some are worse than others. We have the benefit of, what many people would call scientific advances in medicine and such. It's a shame that what we know of medicine seems to be not applied for the purpose of healing as much as for the purpose of profiting. Because then you see things like people being hooked up to ventilators and murdered. And I maintain to this day that I think people were killed with those ventilators, and you'll notice how they quietly sort of faded into the background. They'll discuss that, I guess, years later when the wounds have healed over. How could there have been less death? How could there have been more? I once worked for a company that they would pat themselves on the back. Well, we're a $2 million company. Okay, guys, I'm here to tell you that what if I could tell you that you could be a $10 million company? Now, should you be proud that you're a $2 million company? It's a loaded question. You can't ask.
No, you're totally right. That is a totally loaded question. It all depends on your perspective. So, in your original essay or article about it. Did you suggest that we not shut down? Because that's how I'm viewing it now. I think any more shutdowns will just fuck us over harder than we're already fucked.
There's been precious voices. Let me see here. I think I got one of them near me. I would recommend to your viewers picking this up. It's by Jeffrey Tucker, Liberty or Lockdown. I actually defaced the cover because I don't even want to look at the word lockdown. So I just crossed it out. Yeah, but he's one of the few. He's with AIER. They're sort of an economic research council, and from the beginning, some people have been saying, listen, you don't just get to shut everything down because people are getting sick. And precautions, what have you, that's for people to take, that's for people to decide. We can get guidance, we can get whatever, but to shut down society is just not something that you do. That is not a realistic answer to any question, and we see the consequences, some of them already. We're going to see a hell of a lot more in the time to come because most of this has not unfolded yet.
Yeah, we're fucked for the next 10, 20 years. I mean, we're about to be in our 30s. This is like, in my view, the decade 30 to 40 where I want to fucking make some money, make something of myself. Now we're sort of.
Let me put it in perspective for you. I took my wife to dinner last night to a restaurant. Okay, nice place. And prior to the pandemic, we had gone Wednesdays. They do a pasta night, and it's popular in the town that it's in. And the place was usually mobbed out. I had made the mistake of going there with her on a Wednesday evening, previous to all this, and we couldn't sit down. And I walked out. I don't sit. I don't do the waiting and shit. So I'm like, okay, we'll come back another day. It couldn't get in. We went the other night. Okay, again Wednesday night, prime time. They're doing their pasta night. In addition, they're offering an extra 20% off any dinner, including the pasta nights, to anybody that's willing to pay cash. Okay, to the business. So they want to save on those fees. That's how tight they must be cutting it. The place was near empty. There was only, aside from the fact that they had tables blocked out for social distancing, they didn't need them because none of people to fill the remaining tables. I mean, I felt bad. I paid full price. I don't need your fucking 20%. And, the tip I gave would make most people's face blanch white. But everybody's hurting right now. And if these places don't get help, they're not going to stay open. So people need to go out and eat.
Money.
In Boulder, they actually have restaurants that have like an added 10% COVID fee. People still go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to pay. Whatever, and I just don't know how businesses have stayed open this long. I guess there's been the first economic stimulus package and all that shit, but
a lot of them are treading water, dude. I did a cryptocurrency show the other night, and we were talking about an article about a lot of what they call dormant Bitcoins. So these are Bitcoins that have been held in wallets for 5-10 years by people and haven't moved at all. So this is somebody's long-term, whatever. And the guy that I host with, he pointed out, he said, a lot of these people, some of them could be people that just need to sell that now. It has nothing to do with the price, nothing to do with what it's, they just need that money because people are drawing on their last reserves to deal with this situation, stimulus or not.
Yeah, we actually wanted to bring up cryptocurrency because obviously whenever the economy is unstable, a lot of attention is put on crypto. Was there a particular question you want to ask, or I guess my question would be, I'm most interested in the smaller coins because of what Bitcoin.
I was curious about Bitcoin. I think PayPal just is now allowing Bitcoin to be accepted on it. Did you hear about that?
I think it can. Is there any way to turn your mic up?
Oh
no, he hears us from here.
Oh, yeah. I think PayPal was bought by, or not bought by, but I think you can use Bitcoin on PayPal now.
They just announced it, 2 days ago. So you'll be able to buy, sell Bitcoin, and I think they said several currencies. I don't think it was just Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think so.
And do it on PayPal, which is the reach that will give to people who ordinarily, wouldn't go and open a Coinbase account. They wouldn't go and, pursue, I want to do all these steps to buy Bitcoin. And now, PayPal is something they had. All they needed was an email address to sign up. And they see the option there. Well, now they might buy some. A lot of companies now are buying Bitcoin for their strategic reserve. I shouldn't say a lot, but I should say some big ones, and they're doing so with a lot of money. And they've come right out and said, given the uncertainty in the world, we feel that it's a prudent move, despite the fluctuations in the value, despite the fact that it can go up or down. We still feel it's safer to have some money here. We would like some of our strategic reserve in this.
That's crazy.
That's the IRS is shaking in their boots.
Yeah, right. Well, I wanted to ask, because I just got into crypto recently and I'm using Coinbase. I don't know if that's the way to do it. Could you give our listeners who are like me, they don't really know much about it, like what platform to use? What is it sketchy not to have physical ownership over the coin, like on your hard drive? And then I just bought a bunch of really cheap small coins that like went up 200%, but they're still like 40 cents. Is there any coins that we should be buying right now?
Well, listen, I don't feel that, people look at different investments. I am a big fan of John McAfee's latest project, Ghost. I follow that very closely. Ghost is a privacy coin that has been released that allows for private transactions. They've got a stable privacy coin on the way, so you'll be able to have $1 and say, I want to keep it in Ghost. And when you do so, you'll be able to take $1 out. That's not an investment, but it's for people that want to store money. They can do so without worrying that the dollar will lose its.
So this is John McAfee created this?
He worked with a team, and they produced basically this new blockchain.
I need to fucking invest in that.
There was controversy. He left. He had an argument with one of the original developers, and they didn't see the future of the project the same way. That developer has since left and completely cleaned his hands, and the project has taken steps to move themselves in a better direction. So John just jumped back on board from jail the other day. He announced that he was supporting the project again. So
what makes it different? And then I do want to talk about John, but what makes it different than normal crypto? Like normal coins. You said that you have $1. Can you go into that again?
Well, there's other privacy coins and there's other stable coins. What's going to make this different is the ecosystem and how he's building it. The vision that John had was something that's really usable by everybody, and that's what he's suggested be the development vision for the future. That includes a stable currency, meaning if you buy $1 worth of Ghost stable, in a year it will still be worth $1. There's no speculation on the stable currency. It's only the other currency, which is just called Ghost, which is speculated on. It's been between 38 cents and $2 in the last, since it was announced, the last couple of months. So there's wild speculation on many cryptocurrencies. What makes this important is that if you do a transaction in Bitcoin, a forensics company, even an individual, can still take the addresses, take the transaction IDs, and if they know that you are the owner of a particular wallet, they can trace your transactions just like they could with credit cards. So there is no privacy to that. And the first thing people think there is crime, but I think things like, my employers, I don't know what my employer is going to try to look up on me. And frankly, there's things I don't need them to know. That's none of their business and has nothing to do with my employment contract. So I don't like the idea that they can take all my transactions and look at everything I've bought, how I spend my money, everything else. I want privacy for that. The privacy coins offer features. None of them are perfect. That's why they have to offer a lot of different ways to do it, where you can try and keep the public record of your transactions hidden. A lot of valid reasons to do that. The ones that exist right now are difficult to use. They're not accepted anywhere. same problems facing a lot of smaller cryptos. So the idea of the Ghost Project was to really overcome those obstacles. And once John's finished dealing with his situation, that's going to be his primary focus is getting people to adopt the usage of this cryptocurrency, and that's what'll make it different.
So if I am buying everything through Coinbase and I don't own any of it physically on my hard drive, what does that mean? And how do I gain possession of it? Because right now I own them, but if push came to shove, I don't have them.
Most people would consider Coinbase to be among the safest places if you were going to keep it on an exchange or in somebody else's wallet, because that's all it is. It's in somebody else's wallet. Now, is Coinbase going to steal your money? Probably not. They've been around and they're established enough, and they submit voluntarily to regulations and such. So there's no danger really like that. Could they get hacked? Yes, but they have a pretty formidable security team as well. So I don't think that people are worried in that regard. The thing is that Coinbase will comply with an order, for example, from law enforcement or a request from law enforcement, and say, we want to seize his funds. And then they can seize them, and there's nothing you can do. You don't have to keep them, quote unquote, on your hard drive. There are wallets like the BitFee. There's wallets like Atomic Wallet, which is a software wallet. And these wallets use a seed phrase. They create you an address that's yours now. And all you have to do is write this phrase down and remember it. And now you can open the wallet on any computer and have access to your coins. But they're not on an exchange. They belong to you. That's really, to me, the smartest way to do it, is to store it in some type of a hybrid solution that allows you to use them if you want to, or move them around or look at them. But on the other hand, it's not on somebody else's thing. Now, if I had a wallet like that and I wanted to sell some Bitcoin, I would then have to move them from my wallet to the exchange wallet. But that's as easy as doing a transaction. At the end of the day, nobody can seize funds that are in a wallet that you have the keys to. They can seize funds to wallets that are in somebody else's pocket where you don't have the keys. They do, or where you share the keys with them. They can always take those, yes.
Okay, good. I mean, that's reassuring, though. That's good. And it's interesting that John is hopping on this from prison. I mean, he's been tweeting and shit, so he obviously has a phone. Do you know what he's actually being charged for? I mean, I'm assuming it's tax evasion, but
there were a couple of charges in there, not filing. Basically, I guess they took out the rule book and see what they would throw at him. His position, and I happen to agree with it, is that this is mainly political. This is not, them going after him for any particular tax situation. Those types of things, as we know, even with people that aren't wealthy, are usually worked out or attempted to be worked out before any enforcement action. So we view this as punitive. I believe the Spanish government views it in the same way, which is, makes extradition a problem for the United States. Frankly, I'd be a little surprised if there were people here in the United States that truly wanted to see this through. John McAfee can make a big headache for a lot of people if they want to put him in an open courtroom, or if they want to, parade him around here. He's not going to make it easy for them. It might be best to just leave it where it is and let him go. So who knows what will happen.
So you think it's looking good? You don't think he's going to face serious jail time?
Nobody can tell the future, but do I see this going the way necessarily maybe a handful of people in the world want it to go? No. This is not something that I would say will be a very popular prosecution. Like it or not, John's attitude towards taxes now and how he deals with that, the man has physically paid more taxes to the United States government than most people make in their entire lives. He's already paid taxes. McAfee Antivirus was a very successful company, and he made a lot of money, and all of that's above board money. There's no way, the taxes were paid on it when he took his earnings. That's a lot of fucking money that was paid in. He's received pretty much no services in return. When he was having trouble in the Dominican Republic, and he was detained there. Well, both embassies. John has two passports for England and the United States because he's a citizen of both countries. The fucking U.S. embassy didn't do shit, and the British embassy did. So you want to talk about what he's received for the taxes he's paid? He's received less than nothing. It's a joke. I don't see that case can be made pretty easily. It can be made pretty loudly. How far they want to push this, I don't know. They do seem to have gotten everything out in one wallop, and that there is certainly the possibility that then now that that's been done and the public statement of we are dissatisfied has been made, maybe it doesn't go much further than that. We'll see. He's going to have his extradition hearing. I don't think the Spanish government really wants to turn him over, and we'll see what happens.
For sure.
Yeah, I obviously we wish him the best of luck, and I think you're right. I think it would be a bigger headache than it's worth for the U.S. to deal with.
Well, let me tell you something. If for whatever reason I become unpopular someday and they decide to come after me, I can make one promise to the people that know me well, know that this is the truth. I will make life a living hell as much as they will be able to make life a living hell for me. I'm friends with John. That's one of the reasons we're friends. We see eye to eye on that shit. And if you're going to do this, then we're going to fucking do it. And don't expect me to be cooperative. Don't expect me to be, to make this fun for anybody. His ability to do so is even more so than mine. And John has a very wide audience, and I think it would be a mistake to poke the sleeping dragon. Not that he was sleeping. He's going to make noise regardless. I think that probably if I was people in the United States, I'd prefer he was making noise in some hideaway someplace. And, some people will see that at a distance. If they bring him here and they try making a spectacle out of him, the entire United States is going to see what happens. I'm not sure they're going to want that.
Yeah, and why now? Why did this happen now? I mean, I know he was in hiding, but I mean, he seemed like he was doing fine for a couple of years.
He was, yeah, no, he was able to travel. This is all stupid how it happened. Apparently there's a function on the British website, the UK website, that handles passports and everything, where if you identify yourself to the satisfaction of that website, you can apply to cancel your passport online, and no additional verification checks are done. His passport was canceled, and it may have been agents of the U.S. government that did it, but his British passport that he was traveling under, according to the British, John McAfee applied to have it canceled. Now he says he did not. I believe him, but that's the only reason he was stopped.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder who fucking did that.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we wish him luck, and hopefully this will all be over soon. And I guess he has a phone in jail. I always had the image of prison being cut off, but we love reading his tweets every day. He posts some funny shit.
Listen, Spain is Spain, and elsewhere is elsewhere. And I think a lot of our images of what a jail is come from, more countries that are closer to home.
Right.
Yeah.
Spain has a culture. I have Spanish blood. My great grandfather was Spanish. So I can appreciate some of the cultural peculiarities there. But Spain has a very you can make things happen in Spain that couldn't necessarily happen here.
Like the running of the bulls.
Yes.
So are you gonna watch the debate tonight, or do you just not fuck with that shit?
I haven't watched any of them. I'm not gonna. I see the news that comes out of them, obviously, like anybody else. This is a complete shit show. There's really no reason to play along and say, oh yeah, this is actually something that I'm gonna take seriously. Yeah, we're really having a thing here.
No, the last debate was such a fucking shit. I mean, the whole thing has been such a joke. I just don't understand. I just don't understand what the fuck's going on, honestly. Like, how in this day and age is this going on?
Yeah.
These two people and the amount of bullshit coming out of the news, and just the fucking beliefs that people, and just the division. And now everyone's talking about fucking civil war, which I don't even know what the fuck that would look like in this day and age.
Those people, I have a special place in my heart for those people. Those
Yeah.
people don't know what they're fucking saying. And, you know, I can't help but get the impression in many cases that those people will be the first one cowering under a bush if civil war ever showed up to their doorstep.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, go study the American Civil War, and we didn't have half the ways of killing each other that we do now to see how fucking horrible such a thing would be. To even suggest such a thing over the differences that we have today, you know, is absurd. And I don't mind when people are saying that academically, and I can understand the discussion, but they have a different tone from the ones who seem to be doing it with a bit of wishful thinking. And those people, I think, have a special place in hell coming to them. Back the fuck off. Things are tense enough without idiots talking about, oh yeah, well, it might be civil war. Shut your fucking mouth, okay? There's no reason to talk like that.
People are saying more than that. There's people posting videos of themselves all strapped up and saying like, you know, me and my boys are like, it's getting super threatening.
Listen, you have to understand that a lot of it's talk, okay? Who are all these people that are voting in this election? Well, many of them, I will tell you, are people who swore that if Donald Trump was elected, they would be moving to Canada and renouncing their U.S. citizenship. Well, they're here voting now. So that tells me that they did not move to Canada and renounce their citizenship. Okay, there's a lot of talk when people get emotional, and you know, some shit pisses you off. Oh, I'm going to bust that guy in the nose. Sometimes you do, but usually you don't. And usually it's just, you know, I'm fucking mad is really what you're saying. So a good portion of these people are simply expressing that they're mad. That doesn't excuse them. And I still would like, on behalf of, you know, normal people, to tell them to shut the fuck up and just, you know, have this discussion like a person. But I do understand that they don't mean it. Now, there is, I think, a small percentage that do mean it, and those are the scary ones. People, you want to bring bloodshed? If you hate your own life so much and you just hate being alive and you can't stand the state of the world, please just turn the gun on yourself. I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, the suicide hotline. I encourage people like that to please do the deed. Just end it, because instead of going and ending somebody else's life. That's it. They didn't ask for that.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you see election night playing out? I've heard all different shit, but do you think it's going to be a couple weeks until we find out who wins, like I'm hearing right now?
Yeah, I would expect so. The issue
that is fucking scary in itself, in my opinion.
The usages of the mail-in ballot this year is unprecedented. We've always had them, but they've always been really a very small percentage of the population that fit very definite characteristics. You know, servicemen, people that overseas, and the government knew they were working overseas because you have to file all these papers when you work overseas. You know, so they largely knew who these people were. Their habits were pretty predictable, and a lot of those came in early because people expected to do it. The mail-in ballots this year, you can't even make that any of those assumptions at all. And the people using them are not the same types of people. And a lot of people are weaponizing that. They're saying, well, COVID, and these are people who will happily go to the grocery store. They'll happily go to work. They'll happily go buy supplies that they need for themselves. They'll happily go and march in the street and protest, but somehow they can't get out to cast a vote on election day because of COVID. Now, that's a dishonest use of the mail-in ballot, even though it is their right. They're being dishonest about it, and they're doing it on purpose. They want it to drag out, and they want there to be more to dispute at the end. Neither side, both sides have already said they don't really care to accept the outcome if they're the loser. I mean, both sides are pretty much on record as saying we don't really think that we want to accept an outcome where we lose.
And what the fuck does that mean? Like, you know, that's fucking crazy. I am hearing stories, though, of 11-hour, 12-hour voter lines. And obviously, the Republicans are saying that there's massive voter fraud. Democrats are saying there's zero voter fraud. So I don't know.
Both are exaggerations. Both are exaggerations. But, you know, what would cut it off at the knees, okay, and this is where that becomes less of an issue, and it becomes also more difficult for the losing side to make their case that they don't need to accept the results, is if there is in a landslide in the election day activity. And if you see the preponderance of the voting activity coming out in favor of one candidate on election day, it is going to be a very hard U-turn to say that that's washed by the mail-in ballots. I think we can only look to that if it's close. And I know a lot of people expect it to be close, but That's a difficult position to take.
Who do you think's gonna win?
Well, that's again with you like loaded questions, man. So, all right, but so
How's that a loaded question, though?
well, we'll work it out. We'll work it out. I can't answer that question in beyond the context of if somebody cheats. I can't predict who's going to cheat, how they're going to cheat, because at this point, I would say both sides are willing to cheat if they think they can get away with it, and if they think that it will work. So,
They're both
barring
gonna cheat.
that, your question supposes a fair contest. I can't even say at this point I'm comfortable there is going to be one. So if somebody don't cheat, let's work on that. I mean, if somebody doesn't cheat and you actually have a reflection of what voters go out and do, I have to be honest with you, after the events of the last year, I cannot see Joe Biden winning this election.
See, that's how I feel too. Especially because like everyone thought Hillary was gonna win last time, and she fucking got destroyed.
Listen, old history history casts long shadows, dude. And this isn't a personal thing on Joe Biden. It's more what he represents and the Democratic Party. So look at what we went into this year. If you had asked me the same question 2 years ago, I would have said, oh, I expect that anybody they throw up against Trump will probably beat him. And that was because the news of the time, if you took the temperature of people on social media, what you saw was a preponderance of people on the side of I'm lifelong Republican, blah, 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 blah. I can't bring myself to vote for Trump. You had all these people elevating themselves by coming out and saying, yes, I'm a Republican, but I'm not with Trump. And that was the big thing. Take a look and compare now to the last 6 months. And that's not what I'm seeing anymore. What I'm seeing anymore is a lot of people who are identifying themselves as lifelong Democrats. And if you go to their timeline, I did a few, you can see that they were. That they're not bullshitting about that. If this was cover, this is like deep cover. They spent 10 years working on this shit, right? And they, I can't abide what has happened. Either their sense of fairness has been offended by the way many on the left have been behaving themselves, or they simply can't abide what they know Joe Biden to be. And Joe Biden is the machine, just as Hillary Clinton was the machine. And that's what I meant when I said history casts long shadows. The Democratic Party has that history. They did, Tammany Hall, that was machine politics at its finest, and they perfected it. It's an art form. The Republicans do it too now because they're both big parties, but the machine politics is in the DNA of the Democratic Party, and they don't understand why it's not acceptable to a large part of their base, which is the Bernie Sanders types, and B, the rest of the country, where they say, if you don't want Trump, look at how outrageous he is. He's an embarrassment. He's a racist. All the things they say, all you have to do is just take the machine. Why won't you do it? They came again with the machine, and they're saying you just take the machine.
That's why I'm so flabbergasted that, the Democrats didn't learn fucking anything. I expected some young, energetic, just someone real to come in.
They learned
the person who could beat Trump.
nothing. They learned nothing. Listen,
And
I'm not even talking about politics right now. Leave the politics aside. Forget about what people's politics are, because we know that Trump was a Democrat for most of his life. Leave the politics out of it. What the Democrats should have been doing this whole time is, holding a vigil outside the doorstep of somebody like The Rock and saying, please, for the love of God, run for the nomination of our party, and then supported him every step of the way. And I'm not saying that because I love The Rock. I could give the shit about him.
The Rock.
The Rock, yeah.
Barack.
You know who I'm talking about.
That's what we've been saying too. We'd vote for the fucking Rock. We need The Rock as president and some hardcore fucking straight shooting general as vice president.
Michael Keaton.
Michael fucking Keaton. No, but I think you're right. I think fucking Joe Biden is gonna lose. I don't trust the polls. What the interesting poll is enthusiasm, and they have some way to tell this. Trump is through the fucking roof, and Biden is all the way down here. That's who fucking wins elections. Who's got the enthusiasm?
Exactly. Now you're going down to something like a mayor's race. And if you have one side, it doesn't matter what the politics are. It doesn't matter what, people support. Okay. Because that's all dry shit. What matters is the enthusiasm for the candidate. And what you find is that even if somebody is, considered very respectable and everything else, if their own party, their own voters are, whatever, we could take them or leave them. That's, how many millions of people that we have in this country, how many millions of interactions will have to occur before a ballot gets cast, and how many of those interactions are going to turn them off in a different direction. And you say something as simple as your car not starting when you're going to vote. Well, you know what? People who are all for Trump this time and are sick of being told how they're bad people by a portion of the country every fucking day when they wake up, like, oh, I'm a bad human being again. Oh, I don't measure up again. And they're sick of it. They want to go vote. They're going to fix that fucking car and they're going to fucking drive to the poll. Somebody who has a bumper sticker on their car, which I've seen a picture of, that says settle for Biden or something like that.
Yep,
A bunch of other, right? They're fucking leaving the battery dead in the car. They're going back inside. You know what? I'm going to climb into fucking bed. This is a sign from God. I'm not supposed to go vote. And multiply that. Now scale it. And what do you get?
And what so what do you think is going to go down if Trump wins? Because Nancy Pelosi seems like she has some sort of fucking plan already run up, where it involves the generals, it involves the fucking House, where they don't let this fucking happen. They're going to impeach again, sure, if he wins.
Well, see, and here's the thing. Now, that's not a loaded question, but it's a difficult question to answer because it doesn't just involve Trump's victory. So it really matters to answer that question, in my opinion, what else happens on election day. And that's with all of the other, and I'm thinking mainly Senate, but also any House races or anything like that. We do have other elections that are happening this year. And if you see those go to the Republicans, you're going to see a markedly different response than if you see an entire, let's say voters are in the booths and a lot of them are saying, I am giving it to Trump, but I want to check him. And I'm going to check him by putting Democrats into some of these other offices. If people do that, then the Democrats do have a power base, even though Trump is reelected. You'll see a much more aggressive response. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, and from the Senate races that I've been following, it looks like the Republicans are going to lose a good amount of seats.
It's certainly in the cards. And what I just mentioned is no small thing to a lot of the people we would call swing voters. Swing voters tend to be the more civically minded people. They're not partisan and they're looking more at what they believe is the right thing. So for these people to be standing there in the booths and saying, I do believe that I will vote for Trump, but I do want to see some checks on his ability to rule. You could see that sweeping Democrats into office in Senate races and in House races. And that'll be a problem then for how they're going to face it. Now, can we come through some eventualities? Yes. If Trump wins by a landslide, that's going to limit what Democrats can do, even if they have a complete Senate and they can proceed with their impeachment hearings. They can do everything else. Those types of things are all procedural. They don't necessarily lead to bloodshed in the streets. Do we see things stalling in the government as a result? Yes, there's going to be an effect. It's a markedly different situation than if the race is close and Trump somehow takes it, and then they have a majority, the Democrats in the Senate, in the House. It could get really, really ugly very, very quickly. So what I'm hoping for is some type of a mandate one way or the other from the people on how this thing should go. I don't know if we'll get it, but I do think that the Democrats are in for a surprise. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't see that Joe Biden was the man to do this. I understand why they want him. They want him because he's old, and they don't feel that they could get somebody like Kamala Harris elected. Kamala Harris has spent her entire life being one thing and one thing only. The woman's a fucking tool. It's obvious. It's written all over her. It's written all over her behavior and the things she does, the way she conducts herself, the way she's made her career. The woman's a tool. She'll do whatever it is that these other people, we call them the deep state, whatever the fuck you want to call them, loyal public servants, whatever these people tell her to do, she's going to do. That's who they want there. That's always who they wanted there. And Joe Biden would do it too, but they want a woman and they want Kamala Harris because she's a lot more compromised, I think. So Joe Biden, what happens if he gets elected? Do they even wait a year? Wow, you know what? All that you can go back to the public record for the last year and have people speculating that he's got dementia. It's not going to be hard to make the case to have him
I was
removed.
just about to bring up. I'm seeing if Joe Biden wins, I'm saying 2 years max.
Max,
Then Kamala steps in.
Max.
My question is like, are we gonna fucking learn from this from the last 10 years?
Who's we?
Just everyone, like our fucking the world. Is the media gonna change? Are we gonna like enforce some make some fucking laws that guarantees honest reporting? Are we gonna? I don't know. I feel like we're so down the rabbit hole that if we don't do anything now, and we've had so many teaching moments over the past 4 years, like big things have got to change, or it's getting Trump out of office isn't
The collective we that you refer to still has not tackled the question of where Trump came from. They still haven't answered that in any meaningful sense, and certainly not the Democrats, because the Democrats would never have come back with elect Joe Biden if they understood what happened to them in 2016. And I don't know if it's willful at this point or they just can't live with that reality, but they still have not reckoned with why people are so dissatisfied with the neoliberal neocon. It's been one continuous stream from the Bushes on down. Okay, this is a ruling philosophy that is very distinct from previous presidents and from other governments in the world. I don't view somebody like Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton as being different from George Bush. I don't see them as different at all. George Bush the first and George Bush the second. George Bush the first sounded the bell with his famous speech about the New World Order. And I mean, they honestly expected people to just swallow this type of leadership. And, people are sick of it. They're tired of it. And then you also have all of the cultural elements that you add in behind it. And people are not willing to wake up and be told every single day that they're a piece of shit. And not only are you a piece of shit, but we want you to pay for everything and all of our pet ideas, that we think are important. They're not important to you, but we want to take more of your money to do it. It's not a message that even reasonable people want to hear. They just don't want to hear it. And if there are problems, let's solve them. But you work to solve them cooperatively, not subordinately. Don't ask me to subordinate myself to you. Don't ask me to set myself on fire to keep you warm. And don't call me a selfish person for thinking these things. These are basic human rights.
That's so true. And I'm wondering how much the fucking internet has just poured gasoline on all this. I feel like our country is so vulnerable because we're a democracy.
Yeah. Well,
and
it magnifies it, but it magnifies it also beyond the realm of meat space, what we would call meat space. Look at the Bernie Sanders phenomenon. If you only had access to the internet, you would have assumed that he would have taken the nomination and swept right through. And so we don't get an accurate picture from the internet, even though it's also its own thing. So we can't ignore it, but we also can't say that this is a reflection of the activity that will then happen in the real world.
You're right. And it's because the internet sort of regurgitates your own opinion back at you.
Yeah.
And then you don't know what the fuck is real. It's free game out there, and you have other countries interfering, sparking fucking divisions in our country, which is so easy to do now because we have so many different races, cultures, whatever you do, whatever you call it. And now I feel like everything is based off race and culture, as opposed to, do you know what I mean? Like,
listen, people for too long have swept a lot of unpleasant facts under the rug. Some of that is coming home to roost. Unfortunately, as we've seen many, many times in the past, it seems like those truths have been hijacked by people with very definite agendas. And the communities are not being served well by these people. Unfortunately, these rabble rousers, they seek to rile things up. One of the problems that is always faced, for example, the Black community, is your people who want to advocate for them. And what happens is that as this moves along, what you find is that, okay, you do this and you start making progress. And let's say it's on a local level in a town. And now you've cleaned up the town. Now what? Well, maybe you move on to another town, but maybe there is no other town. And now what? You're out of business. And there seems to be some of that in the advocacy arena for minority groups where it seems like some of the leaders don't want these problems to go away. In fact, they want them to get worse because they seem to avoid any reasonable approach to these problems. Most of the people of color, whatever whatever race they are, I don't ask, I don't give a shit, right? But people who don't identify as white, pretty much to a man that I talk to, are all reasonable people. And some of them are decent people, some of them aren't. Same as white people. Some of them are decent people, some of them are shit. Okay. But on the other hand, they're all still people. Okay. And they all still like discuss things in terms that the rest of us use. You go into the internet or you go into the media and they don't even use words the same way that we use them. It's not even a discussion in the classical sense anymore. It's pure rhetoric, pure partisan rhetoric. And it's actually designed as an assault. It's not meant to be an exchange. It's an attack.
Right. No, that's really interesting. And it's race baiting, and it's also accusatory to the point where if you apologize, you're fucked, and if you don't, you're fucked. It's sort of like this weird fucking.
Well, what's interesting is that there's a parallel with another behavioral pattern that we're aware of and have studied extensively, and it's something that abusers do. Okay, abusive people. One of the things they'll do to the people that they abuse is it's this idea of the ever-shifting sands, and it's a way of maintaining power over somebody else. If you keep the floor moving underneath them, so that at any given time they're not certain what to do. Okay, a lot of people fail in training their dogs in this way because dog training is something I used to do, so I can bring this to the table as sort of a metaphor. But dogs understand cues in a different way that we do, and a lot is very visual for them. And if you yell at a dog after the fact of something, they don't know why you're yelling at them because they can't make the connection. And so you get a dog that's a basket case because you've trained them wrong. They don't understand what it is you want them to do. It's similar with people. So abusers know that if I keep the floor out under you and I'm constantly changing the definitions and the reality that I expect you to live in, and you never know what decision to make, what do you have to do? You have to just keep your eyes on me, and you have to make sure that you're always looking at what I say to do and that you're moving in that direction simultaneously. You have to synchronize with what I'm saying. It's a tool of power. It's vicious, it's evil, and it is being deployed with no fucking shame by many members of the left and many members of these minority rights groups. It's a shame because it's disgusting.
That's a really interesting way to look at it, and that's I see that. That's exactly what's going on, and just the amount of fucking bullshit. So when I ask where do we go from here, I know you don't have an answer. I don't either, but I guess we'll see. In 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks.
Yeah. You know what? We as a country have survived a lot of calamity. And as much as we'd like to believe that the republic shall endure, it hasn't always been a guarantee. Just like life itself is not a guarantee. We don't know necessarily when our republic will end, but history says that it will. I hope this isn't it. I don't think that we need to cash in our chips yet. The people that started this country, and I don't say they were perfect. I don't say that the prevailing views at the time were perfect. They had some very mistaken views, I believe, on humanity, the nature of humanity or whatever, but they were trying, okay? And what they were trying to prove to the world was that people could govern themselves. And they didn't even get that right, okay? You had the Federalists come in and they did, turned it a lot, and it took a lot, borrowed a lot from the monarchies to make this less of the republic that it should have been. But they did their best, and they were trying to say, this is something that we can do. We don't need a monarch sitting at the top of us telling us what to do. The Civil War came. There were people who went to go fight for that reason. And we will not give up this idea and just simply, cash in our chips and say the country failed. I don't think people want to do that now. I think there's a small segment of the people who live here who never appreciated what this country was for, even though they came here, although some were born here. They don't appreciate the values of individualism that this country is based upon, and the importance of the individual. Even though they claim to say that every life matters and that everybody's important, but they don't act like that. So I can't take them seriously. Okay, if you honestly believe in the individual, if you want to see collective action, you have to believe in the individual, because you have to convince each of these individuals to be part of your collective action, because each of them has value. As soon as you start taking away value from that individual, why should they want to be part of your collective? You're dehumanizing them. So everything that you hear people talk about them wanting in terms of us cooperating comes from the importance of the individual.
Are you saying
we're share those values? I really wish they would leave.
Are you saying we're losing the sense of individualism? Because I've always looked at it like we're too individualistic now. We can't buy into a basic idea, values, and a basic goal for everyone. We're too disjointed. Are you saying the opposite? Like we're not individualistic enough?
People can cooperate when they're comfortable with themselves and when they're comfortable in their own reality, and that they feel that their needs are being met and their rights are being respected. Nobody wants to be put down. And we may have a dispute on what people's rights are, but people know when they're feeling like they've been put down. So those are, if you want to look at when does cooperation blossom and when does it wither, okay, we have plenty of smaller fish bowls to look at in our culture, which we can understand this concept well on a smaller scale, and then apply it to the larger reality. If we look at companies, for example, we look at teams, what are the successful teams? The teams are the one where everybody feels they have a stake, where everybody feels like their contributions as an individual are respected, and the group also gets recognition for what they've done. But nobody wants to feel that they're faceless in that group. Nobody wants to feel that their contributions aren't being valued, or that they don't have an equal share and an ownership in that. Okay, so you tell me how then on a large scale we can do what doesn't work on a small scale. Because if you create a team where one person's just telling everybody what to do and nobody feels like they have ownership over that process and nobody feels like they're important, they fail, and they fail every fucking time. So tell me how we're supposed to do as a society what we can't even do at the company level. We can't. We need to value the individual. We need to value ourselves, and don't make the mistake of equating that with selfishness. I do believe that many people are too selfish, but that has nothing to do with valuing the individual.
You're right. No, you're right. There is a huge difference, and I was looking at it from a little bit different perspective, but I see exactly what you're saying now. It sort of comes down to, can you live your life with meaning, and do you feel like you're contributing to your community? Mm-hmm. And right now, that's pretty disjointed.
It's hard because we have lost, I think, the basis of, and I don't know when it happened, but at some point people failed to realize that the basis of a community is not everybody agreeing and not everybody getting along, or not even everybody liking each other. The basis of a community is our ability to basically tolerate each other and live in peace. Because before we had communities, before we had anything, we had every man for himself, okay? And we still had to worry about these things, but we had a lot more to worry about. And then we start to say, well, if we cooperate, if we agree to stand over here, we'll at least have peace, okay? It's then a further step to say, maybe we can build a bridge together and have a bridge go over that river, okay? That's another step of collaboration. But the first one, the fundamental one, the vital one, was the ability to say, you know what, man, I don't like your fucking art. I don't like your fucking wife's face. Your dog is mangy. You have fucking rats all over your fucking property. You smell, and fuck you. But I can stay here. You can stay there, and we're cool. I don't feel like I have to raise an army and go and smash your fucking existence, okay, and obliterate you from the planet because you don't fit my mold. That's the basis of society. And that's what civilization is. I don't know what people think. That's all it is. And we've lost that. So they want to talk about now, healthcare being a right when we don't even have this basic respect anymore? How are you going to do that?
Yeah, and that basic respect has slowly been shifting because, I mean, politics, political debates, differences between neighbors have always been a thing, but now they're getting really personal. Now people are doing crazy shit about it. Now people are fucking pissed off, and that's where violence comes from. So something has shifted. I mean, Trump, what, regardless of what you think of Trump, you have to admit that he fucking stirred the pot a little bit too much, to the point where I don't think him winning is a good thing regardless of his policies. I think the world's view and respect for Trump is so fucking low and so fucked up that regardless of his policies, I view it as a negative. And I think that's sort of where we're at right now.
Well, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is to say there is a positive. You want to talk about a teaching moment? That was the biggest teaching moment of all.
Yeah.
From that respect, it should be viewed as a positive thing. Unfortunately, it hasn't been taken as such. But I view Trump as a reflection of the larger culture. Okay. And it comes back to answering that question: where did Trump come from? He came from us. And it was very much on the wall what was going to happen. I started my political career. I started my political career in 2015 because I saw the conditions that allowed for Trump, and I knew that politics was now going to become something very different. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'd say that was a pretty early view. Most people still seem to think that it was business as usual, and then came Trump.
Yeah, no, and that's interesting because there's a few people that I've heard say, I mean, they called Trump winning from the beginning, and they're like, we saw the writing in the sand, we understood the fucking we understood what was going on. For you, what is Trump a symptom of, and what were you seeing that allowed him to become elected?
What I was seeing was before Trump. My campaigns started before Trump even announced he was going to run for president, or that you were even seeing articles talking about him thinking about it. My viewpoint had nothing to do with Trump. It had everything to do with the 8 years of Obama. It had everything to do with basically what you hear at the water cooler, what you were seeing on the internet. And I realized that we don't live in the same country we did 10 years ago anymore. And then combine it with the cultural elements, reality television, more, ultimate, more, better, WWF, the way our culture had become. Okay. Oh, well, what's Beyonce going to do now? So you see what people are after. And it doesn't take a genius to say, if somebody gives this to them in the political realm, they're going to sweep it. And every single calculus that you have for politics, you can take, wipe your ass with it, and flush it down the toilet. And all somebody had to do was do it. Trump is just the person that stepped up and claimed the ticket, dude. I've got news for you. I was hoping it would be somebody else. I was working on my own campaigns. I don't have his money, and I wasn't willing to say, well, we'll become a Republican to do it. So, that's the difference. But that writing was there, dude, for anybody who cared to fucking look at it.
No, you're so right. Holy shit. No, when you put it that way, that's fucking insane. Because our culture has completely, I mean, since, I don't know when, but recently, we have become this fucking manja, fucking obsessive, vain, uneducated community. And I'm not saying that we're all uneducated, but I mean, we've been fucking taking money away from public education for a long time. These are sort of the long-term effects, and all this fucking shit built up to this point where it's sort of mind-blowing.
Well, can you honestly look at the events of the past couple of years and say that these are people who have studied history? No. Can you watch any pundit on the TV and listen to what they have to say and say this person must be a student of history? No. And therein lies the biggest mistake and failure of the public education system and every other education system is not putting, math is important. I get it. Science is important. I get it. History is not a fluff subject. History is the story of us. And that story keeps repeating itself in different iterations. We have cycles of the same patterns with different window dressing. And it's all right fucking there. Most of the answers we need are there because we've lived through it already and people have done the hard part. But it's sort of relegated to this, oh, that's interesting sort of category. No, it's not fucking interesting. This shit's fucking vital.
And that's what scares me, because the writing's on the fucking wall, and we've seen this time and time and time again. But you're right. You're right about that. And you know what? My biggest worry right now is the fucking dollar. I've been reading a bunch of shit about the dollar and how, like, I don't even want to think about what could or maybe will happen in the next 5 years if the dollar fucking crashes. And that's why I started investing in cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
If the dollar crashes, are we moving to gold? Are we moving to crypto? What would happen just, logically if the dollar lost value, which it might?
It's hard to say logically what would happen. I know what I would like to have happen. I would like to see. We have technologies now that we didn't have 100 years ago, and it gives us the ability to actually go back to something that made more sense. And that it was the idea of smaller issuing authorities. Okay. And if you had these smaller issuing authorities, along with, and this is where the internet can help us, so, measures of surety. Okay. And there's different things you can look at, liquidity, history, etc. But for something as simple as the exchange of assets, all you need to know is the present liquidity. Is this currently liquid? And if I can instantaneously have that information when I'm accepting money from you, does it matter what you're paying me with? Now, if I have a terminal that can instantly exchange whatever you're giving me with something else to get what I want to use or what I want to keep, do we even need a standard? And I would say the answer is no. We're still on these old definitions, and I think maybe that could be what's next, where we say, you know what, the dollar's crashed, but the Singapore money is looking pretty good, and I'm going to own some of that, even though I live in the United States. And if I want to go to the gas station and buy cigarettes, he's just going to use his terminal to make that exchange to what he accepts instantly. All of this can be done with technology. It's just not set up.
That's fascinating. So what you're saying is the standard of the dollar, if it did disappear, it wouldn't. Basically, people would just be switching to whatever's legitimate. So you see a world where I can go in and buy a pack of cigarettes with cryptocurrency, or like you were just saying, the Singapore dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't all other countries, dollar value based off the U.S. dollar? It's the world standard right now. If that crashed,
but imagine a world, for example, like think about all of the different cryptocurrencies and think about things that you can do with cryptocurrencies. Think about it less in terms of a standard of payment, because ultimately, why do we have money? We have money for convenience, okay? Yeah. Because ultimately, it's just a reflection of what we would have done anyway, which was barter.
Agrees it's valuable.
Right. I would have shown up at your farm, and I have a clock that it took me 5 weeks to make, and you're going to decide how many chickens that clock is worth, okay? Right. And that's how many chickens you're going to give me. That's everything, because we don't use money in itself. We never, maybe some people wipe their ass with it, but I don't know what else. All right. In countries where there's hyperinflation, they used to burn it to keep warm. Money itself is just a symbolic thing. It actually has no value in it. The value is in the world that we have to live in. Yeah. So we can see different reflections of that. I'm convinced that we don't need necessarily a standard as much as we need a baseline, something that everything can compare to. Maybe the dollar will just slide into that, particular niche, and it won't go away, but it'll no longer be what's backing the entire world supply. Because if anybody thinks they have the gold to back it, they're foolish. They know that they don't. So they know they're just printing it at this point. So why are we pretending? Let's just call it what it is. This is a symbolic placekeeper. But if you do that, now you can say, well, why do our placekeepers need to be so generic? So imagine this, the scenario that I just talked to you about. You own a gas station, You've got a terminal, and that terminal's hooked up in real time to the exchanges of every known acceptable medium that has liquidity of exchange. And I walk into your store and I have one type of currency and you like holding another, okay? It makes that exchange instantly. What if my currency was a currency that every time it was used, part of those transaction fees went to feed people? Okay, that's something that could be set up on the blockchain in a contract, everything else, where the actual use of the money drives the transaction fees to an account that a charity has access to that uses it to feed people. Now, talk about a dollar vote. In choosing to keep and use that currency, it's not because of my confidence in it, it's because it performs a social function that I want to see happen. This is the future we could be living in. That's the excitement of cryptocurrency to me.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So you could sort of pick. Wow. That's awesome.
And now it's not hurting you. You're making a donation without making it because you would need to use a network regardless. You're going to need to pay transaction fees, be they on Bitcoin, be they on whatever. You're just choosing, this is where my transaction fees are going to go. Now you're making a social decision concomitant with using your money. There's nothing more powerful than that. Okay, so we could have that tomorrow if it was just set up. There's no development that needs to be done. Exchanges have APIs right down to the gold exchange. We can apply to those APIs. All we have is the terminals to place in these point of sale places. The credit card companies already figured out how to do that. What we live in now is a stupid world. If you were a while ago, I don't remember when I was younger, there was this funny thing with American Express, and you'd go into some places and you'd go to, you wanted to pay with American Express. They'd be like, whoa, I don't know. We don't take that, because it wasn't accepted. Now, Visa, MasterCard, these are all brands, but it doesn't matter. They're all accepted. Think about a terminal that would do that for any form of value store, any form of money. The dollar, though it may still exist, becomes infinitely less important under that, guise. And now we have these small economies, which are, by the way, easier to manage because they're small, each performing particular functions of value exchange in our societies and a way to connect them all. That will actually, you want to talk about how can money produce social good and how can we turn it into a progressive tool? That's how you do it. Instead of fucking pointing a gun at people.
And then we're sort of like starting from scratch almost because we're far gone from the gold standard. Our money isn't backed by shit. So how do you go from the dollar not being backed by shit? Cryptocurrency is bought with the dollar. And the world you see is crypto becoming the main form of currency. What is crypto backed by and doesn't need to be backed by anything? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. In a world where we print money, I would say, it's at least a lateral movement, at the very least. Okay,
right.
It's so nothing to complain about there. If you're talking about changing society, that's a lateral movement. If we're printing it now, then we'd be printing it then. But you can make the case for things like Bitcoin. There's scarcity. It requires mining. So the people that are Bitcoin maximists love to go on about that and how it's hard money. Okay, fine. That's not going to solve the world's problems. But there is some truth to it. We do have a scarce item that people are now able to trade in. So there's some scarcity.
There's like a finite amount.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone agrees what it's worth, it would work out. Right now, we're fucked because the government is printing fucking trillions of dollars. Right. And we're in debt to fucking China for who knows how much. And I just don't think it's going to last much longer. I don't think the dollar is going to be around for another 20, 50 years. I don't know how long it's going to take.
I think the cracks are definitely showing. And a lot of people are aware that we're going to need to find a system that's more resilient, even if they don't know how to do it. The question. How do you
make that decision? How do you make that decision? How does everyone, if we did catch it before the crash happened, we're like, hey, this is going to happen. Yeah. Let's switch over to this. How the fuck does that happen? That's a shit show.
Yeah, the way that this happens, just talk about, my vision just becomes. Ubiquity becomes the key, and a lot really drives on the existence of the terminal that I discussed and the ability to do instant exchange in as many mediums as possible. If you have that, it's just a matter of getting them into place. and having that be the standard that people use. Well, that's something that would take time. There's an adoption curve that people need to get on. The credit card companies aren't going to be happy, so you're going to be fighting with them, trying to get into places with that. But that would be the method. Do I think it's a decision we all make? No, because there's too many people with a vested interest to not make it. So it would be something like a crash that would force that decision. And then, yeah, obviously it's needlessly messy. I don't know that there's any way we can avoid that. Try to get these people out there now to agree on anything. I challenge you. It's not going to happen.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean,
And nobody wants to hear this.
6 years ago would have been easier. Now I feel like the population is so large, and everyone has access to sharing their opinion, which is great. But I feel like it's just if everyone can spew their opinions out online, I feel like it just gets to a point where we don't need any more fucking opinions. And there's too many, you know what I mean? Like,
well, the good news is it's not up to them. The bad news is it is up to other people. And unfortunately, if you're doing very well under the present system, there's no motivation for you to change it. And I have always talked about cryptocurrency for as long as I've been into it as a great equalizer. And, if you want wealth redistribution, this is one way to do it. Organically, naturally, without pointing guns at people. Cryptocurrency has the power to do real wealth redistribution. Well, I got news for you. It may be better for everybody, but the people who are in power right now, on top of the money, don't want a reality like that. They want to be firmly in control of the printing press. They like, all the benefits that come with that. So it's a matter of
hopefully they'll be dead soon.
A crash could do them in. Well, if they're dead, you have their kids. It's still an ongoing thing. You always have people with more, and they're there now. So there has to be some way to remove them. If you're not going to go shoot them and take their money, you need another way. And this would be the way, but they're going to fight it tooth and nail. Let's be honest. They like this system where they have advantages.
That's true. But the issue they have is that there's a lot more of us than there is of them. A lot more. And that's why fucking social organization is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why this time period is sad, because we don't fucking have that. I mean, we sort of do, but not really. And
well, they did this to themselves. The greed, unfortunately, reached a level where it upset the balance of nature and became toxic. I think most people are willing to understand that there will always be haves and have-nots. It's the breach between the haves and the have-nots, that gap, the disparity, the sheer level of space in between how much the haves have and how little the have-nots have, that offends people. And, that's greed, because that stasis can be maintained if you just gave the people something. But if people show up day after day and they're putting in their best and they have nothing to show for it, I've been there, man. I did the corporate America thing.
I'm there right now.
I'm like, I'm not going to fucking get out. What? I'm going to own a house by the time I'm 50. Okay, maybe then they'll still take it from me if I don't keep up on my taxes. So I'm going to have to fucking keep working. I'm going to be paying off and paying off and paying off, and always be wondering if there's something waiting to fall on me if I follow this path. That's the path they want you to take.
I was going to say, I make more than the average household, like $45,000, $50,000 a year, which is a lot, but I'm still living paycheck to paycheck.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And I'm one person.
That's how they need you to live.
So how the fuck does a family live off that? I don't even understand. And yeah, I could be saving more, but I don't live lavishly. I buy food, I buy sneakers when I need them.
Yep. I hear you. Same here. That was exactly my same experience.
Yeah.
And unfortunately then you have people who say, well, it's all, we have to do this and there's no alternative. Well, that's not true. Okay. And they're serving, they don't realize, the masters that they claim to hate, because this is where they want to keep you. And taxes are one of the ways that they do it. And every fee and everything that's associated with anything, you paid this a day late, now there's another $50. They just keep taking and taking and taking. And they can't understand why people are fed up with this. I'm tired of suffering and of struggling when I shouldn't be, when I see people who have way more than they'd really ever need.
And you know what? I'm saying $45,000. That's before taxes, and I'm in a bunch of debt.
Yeah.
So yeah, fuck, you're totally right. And the way that shit is marketed to us, how borrowing money is so fucking easy.
Mm-hmm.
You get in over your head. I fucking get it. There's a lot of people who are in debt fucking $50,000-$60,000, even more than that. Even $10,000 in debt is a huge hit every month. And then they go to your job if you don't fucking pay them off. This happened to me. You get garnished. They go to your job and they take $400 a paycheck from you for 3 months.
Yep.
Yeah, for that 3 months, I was fucked.
I've been there, dude. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. No, but you're right. People are fucking sick of it, and the
balance that needs to be struck, and the balance has been struck wrong, unfortunately, in the last 20 years. You know, sure. Can you go and say we're going to put the garbage man on $100,000? You know, $200,000. What's something ridiculous? $500,000 a year salary? No, you can't, because soon you're not going to have a garbage man. It's just the truth of things. Okay, so you know there is the need to say, commensurate with a certain level of work, you're going to get a certain compensation, and we're not going to make you a rich man. If you want that, you have to go work for yourself. Otherwise, we're not going to have workplaces, and things aren't going to get done. Because if you think that somebody's going to eat shit when they have $1 million sitting in the bank, and the first day that they show up at work and they don't like what they hear, they're out, dude. I'm telling you, they're out.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I mean, that's why the fucking monopoly laws maybe need to be changed. A bunch of different things, and maybe those shitty jobs should be reserved for young people. And I don't know. I don't know the fucking solution.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we can do is take a hard look at the way companies are. You know, I am mostly, in my views, probably closest to the libertarians. However, they fail to draw a distinction that I do draw. You can discuss rights, you can discuss everything else. And I would even say that you know, if you wanted to start a sole proprietorship, that's your business. If you want a partnership with two people that are maintaining liability, that's your business. And there's very little society should say other than safety and things like that we expect. But if you go and start a corporation or an LLC or any of these other legal entities, okay, you've now asked society to overlook your liability, your financial liability, on the failure of that business. Well, I'm sorry, I'm pretty well versed in human rights, but I don't see anywhere that a right to no liability is a human right. And this is where a lot of libertarians make mistakes. I do believe companies can be regulated. I am very particular in the way that you should do it. It should be to prevent abuses like somebody becoming too large, because that doesn't benefit anybody. And I think we've all learned that lesson, or should have, over the last 20 years. So is it acceptable to say, if you want to operate with these liability protections, we have certain restrictions that you need to operate under? Sure. But I think those restrictions should be designed nothing like the regulations of today. They should be designed to make sure that the business still has freedom of action, because otherwise, who would start a business?
And you know, I think what the real monopolies are formed because of something. It's because people like fucking Walmart got access to really cheap goods in fucking China, and the death of the fucking small business slowly happened over the past 20 fucking years. Like, if
they also deserve, they do
American, if we bought American, sold American, if we did that and didn't let these overseas markets fuck up our economy, then you could still go into my hometown and find a butcher and a shoe shop and a toy store, and like, that's how I grew up, and it wasn't even that long ago. Now you go into my town and there's a barber and a fucking Walmart and a grocery store, and that's it. And you buy everything at Walmart, and you go and get your hair cut at the grocery store, and then you go to the bank. You have to pay less. You have to pay a little bit more if you're going to individual. But that's how sense of community is formed. That's how everyone gets a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, that was a social surcharge on the price, and people became willing to pay it. You know, never underestimate your enemy. never underestimate your enemy. Walmart did a lot of things very smartly. And there's a reason why they grew so exponentially so quickly. I remember one story that was told to me by some executives, and they were used to going and meeting other executives at company headquarters. You're walking down a marble fucking hallway, with red lush carpets and mahogany fucking, nice drawers and shit. Okay, they go to meet Walmart top executives, okay, the CEO and the other officers of the company, and they're sitting on milk crates in the back of this dingy fucking warehouse meeting with these executives. Walmart was very exceptionally good about not spending money like the royal family to run the business. And it gave them an edge that a lot of people underestimate. Yes, the cheap goods were an advantage, but their margins were very tight. The reason why they were able to make it work with those margins is that they lived like the absolute skinflints when they did their jobs. So it was a successful formula, and they kind of overtook everything like that. But the problem is, if you don't have...
So, sorry to interrupt, but what you're saying is why Walmart was able to succeed in the early days was because they were stingy as fuck and budgeted like crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. As they were opening because they actually spent money opening on stores. Most businesses, when they start hitting on a winning formula, they say, well, we were so lean in the beginning, and we really suffered. This is when the hemming and hawing starts. And all of a sudden, management finds an excuse about why they need a new carpet or why they need a new desk. I mean, this is human shit, right? I'm the CEO now of a fast growing company. People have expectations. I need to appear a certain way. We need to have an office that impresses people. It'll bring us more business is the conventional wisdom. But really what you're doing is you're just taking the money and flushing it. The people that ran Walmart that took over from Sam Walton, they realized that frugality was the key to now being able to say, well, you know what? If we can get something for 5 cents rather than 6 cents, let's do it. Because most businesses, they wouldn't bother because that money they know would be gone as soon as they have it. It would be not something worth doing. Walmart was able to do the type of business they did because of the ethos that drove the company. It was
I bet they still paid themselves well and didn't practice frugality in their personal lives. But, I was just thinking while you were saying all that, the American dream is that you make it however fucking way you want. And if that's the way to do it, then that's the way to do it. And maybe it gets to a point where there's companies that get too big and fuck over everyone else. So I don't know the fucking solution. Maybe the American dream is a little bit flawed in that sense. But I feel like if we collectively decided to stick together in the sense of we were conscious about our purchases, we didn't fucking outsource, we kept manufacturing and all that shit in the country, we'd be in a different position right now.
No solution that's based on everybody getting it is ever going to work. So, yes, you're right, but would that ever have happened? No, because at the end of each of the transactions that built that empire was just a person like you or me who looked at their bank account and saw that the IRS had docked $500 out of their salary that month, and they had less money to deal with, and they needed a fucking pair of socks, and Walmart had the socks cheaper, and so you say to that person, struggle even more, even though the socks that you want right there at that price struggle even more. It's a hard case to make. But the counterpoint to it is we broke up Ma Bell because they got too big. And, there are checks that then the people can gather together and put into place and say your business does have to function within the larger context of this society. And we've noticed, we're glad for your success, but you've grown so large that you really need to be several companies. And those companies need
Google and Amazon.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that.
I'm waiting for that. No, I'm waiting for Amazon to be broken up because, okay, here's the thing about Amazon though. They make tons of people money. People make millions of dollars selling their shit on Amazon. Without Amazon, they wouldn't be able to do that. So to say that Amazon is a, demonistic company that's sucking money from other companies, I would say, take a step back and take a look at it again, because I think if I'm a small company, even if I'm a single person, I could go to Costco and buy 700 candles and sell them for double the price on Amazon. You know what I mean? It's like a middleman that you can utilize.
Mhm.
So that's my thing with Amazon. I think they can be positive.
But on the other hand, somebody might say to them, that's fine if you want to act as this type of warehousing solution and you want to have a company based on that, that's fine. Now, recent headlines a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about Amazon cannibalizing their own sellers by, now selling the things themselves. When they see an item become popular, they go and they're buying them. Yeah. And now it's coming from Amazon. So that might be a cue for somebody to step in and say, listen, you're not going to do that. And if you want to have a sales business, it's going to have to be broken off and you're going to have to compete in the marketplace with the others. So these are the problems that you see with.
I said, yeah, be happy with being the fucking platform. Don't snipe. That's exactly what they are doing. They see a fucking hot product. This guy's making 25 a unit on it. They sell it for 19 or whatever, and they destroy his business. That's exactly what they do. I guarantee that.
That's the Walmart model. I mean, everybody saw it. They know it works. So now
that shifts my perspective.
Now it's happening again. And who is, and I say this all the time, people think, oh, it's just got a chip on his shoulder, but it's the truth. Who pays the price? The guy lowest down on the totem pole every fucking time. I don't care what decisions are made by the big people. We're the ones down here paying the fucking price.
And no fucking solution in sight. But there doesn't need to be a solution. There is no one solution.
No, there isn't. The best thing that I can hope for, and what I try to do in my personal comings and goings, and as we're talking now, to treat people with respect, to try to get them to see that maybe there's some things that they should think about that I've thought about, to try and hear from them if there are some things that I should think about that they've thought about, and as long as there are people alive willing to do that, the forces of evil really can't win. We'll see a mess, we'll see problems, we'll have difficulties, but they don't win as long as there's, just like the authoritarians never win as long as there's people who still value freedom left alive, which is why they try to go after them first. And people that value freedom, that think it's important, they may be on the losing side of the power equation, but at least they're alive to fight another day. As long as we have people that value these things, which is one of the reasons I'm somewhat optimistic. I've had the opportunity, I have a daughter of my own, and meeting some of the other kids, and I have to say, this crop of kids that's coming now is a lot more impressive than the last couple.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah,
I've heard that as well.
They're sensible. They're paying attention.
Smart too. They're fucking smart.
And they're smart.
Because they've been exposed to the fucking internet, which, I mean, the whole educational system is shifting now. You can learn anything you want online. And I've seen, I know some younger kids. I've seen videos of kids 1 through 10 who are way smarter than I ever was at that age, which is really cool to see.
Yep. And a lot of them are realizing that the adults around them are full of shit.
Yep.
And if they can maintain that and not become one of the adults that's full of shit, we might have some hope. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. My wife wanted to visit Woodstock a couple of weeks ago, so we did. And that was a bittersweet experience for me, walking around, seeing the stores. Well, when you drive into town, you're greeting at the municipal parking. The $5, they only take cash, no hugs, right? So, yeah. And then it only goes downhill from there, and you go from place to place, and there's all these shops, and all of these shops have fucking rules posted on the front of the store with all these things that you have to do to come into the store. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Go back to the 60s. What was the counterculture revolution? And what was behind it? And it was fuck the man. It wasn't be the man. And somehow these people convinced themselves, because some of them wanted a life and they wanted to, go get a career. They didn't realize they didn't need to sell out their ideals to do it. But then they became the ones holding the money. And now they need a narrative, an excuse. And they start saying, oh, that fuck the man was really, what it meant was good government. Excuse me? No, that's not what it meant. It was very clear. Then it happened again in the 70s in the punk revolution. Same fucking shit. It was fashion for most people. It didn't mean anything to most people. The only thing I left there was this. I got this album, Sex Pistols. The only thing I could find in Woodstock worth buying. And so I took that back here and hung it up.
And the bollocks.
You know, little fucking memento. But I mean, it's sad. This is what's become of an entire generation that did at least briefly realize, you know, guys, you're all full of it, and you uptight people. My war has I've dabbled in politics, and I'm happy to come on and talk politics, but my primary war has never been political in the sense that most people would say. I don't want to run people's lives, so I'm not concerned with the issue like that. My war has always been on uptight people, and you find them on both sides. You find them in every color and stripe, every fucking ethnic group, every fucking political affiliation. In there someplace are uptight people. My contention is they're the ones causing all the problems in this world. So
I really, really like that. I like how you put that. It's not about your position, what you believe, where you're coming from. It's about being fucking uptight.
how you are.
Letting your neighbor do the fucking thing.
Everything's a problem for you. Everything everybody else does is a problem for you. At some point, somebody has to say, okay, shit can Sally, what would make you happy? What would actually make you happy? And many of these people can't even articulate that.
And what's going to work for everyone in the big picture in the long run? It's literally that.
Yep.
It's everyone taking a step back and just enjoying and being in their own fucking existence.
Yep.
And hey, if this guy is not doing it your way, that's okay. Just don't fucking interact with him.
Right. You don't have to go over and hit him with a ton of static. There's no, what you're doing is adding to the sum of negativity in the world and helping to create these problems that you then later show up to bitch about. I mean, it's almost absurd to the point where you just you don't even know what to say. You're causing this, and then you're showing up to bitch about it. What the fuck do you want from me? Like, seriously.
You know, I just went to a class. It was like a week-long class with Peter Ralston. I don't know if you've heard of him, but it's sort of like he's a martial arts mindfulness guy who just wrote a book, and he teaches some classes. And that was pretty much his position, was just sort of teaching how to separate your consciousness from how reality affects you, stepping back from those effects and being in this place where you can view the effects for what they are. So you're not getting fucking worked up about your fucking neighbor who might be taking shits in an outhouse outside and you don't like that, or whatever the fuck it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And some people,
libertarian.
You know, some people get this, one of those dark gifts. And the dark gifts give you, I guess, maybe the ability to see these things where you might not otherwise have had them if you approached it intellectually. So a dark gift could be the death of somebody close to you. A dark gift that's particularly effective in this case is almost dying yourself. It's happened to me several times. And these are profound events. And they can be a shortcut to the intellectual route, which would take you longer and you might not get there, of realizing that a lot of this stuff really isn't that important. And even the important stuff is better worked on with a cool head and with some emotional distance, because your chances of achieving an outcome that will improve your condition go up. So this is what you try. I don't say that everybody else should go out and nearly get themselves killed, but it does help. You have a more sober perspective on our existence afterwards.
100%. You learn that all this is fucking bullshit. And if you're able to step back and shift your perspective, it's sort of like looking at an optical illusion, being able to shift your perspective and seeing it as something else. If you're able to fucking do that, you will realize that life can be really simple. And we can all fucking do this. It could be really simple. We can all, I know that sort of sounds fucking too optimistic, but it's as simple as that.
It is as simple as that. Toto did it. You run up and you just pull the curtain back and you realize shit. And then with your mind's eye, you can remove all of this, remove it all up here and say, you know, just the field. We just have the field, and all we have is people. And you realize that that is all we have. That's really the only real element. That's why when I'm talking to an environmentalist and they start talking about the pristine beauty of a waterfall, you stupid mutt. What's wrong with you? It doesn't matter if there's nobody there to appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is for people. It's for people because we're here. So I don't know what you don't get, but I don't care about the state of this planet except in terms of the livability of it for people. And if we manage to get off it, then I don't give a shit about this planet one little bit. That may sound harsh, but this is here for us. And so we're taking it. So let's figure out a way. Yes, we don't want to wipe ourselves out, but beyond that, don't tell me about a fucking waterfall. I really don't give a shit about the waterfall in the vacuum of space in a world with no people. I don't care about it.
And
Yeah.
I think because of the internet and so many people's opinions and how fucked things are right now, the generation that you were speaking of is going to grow up in a completely different state of mind, a different perspective. And they're going to be the ones to make serious fucking change. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping by the time I'm in my 60s that I'll be living in a world run by, maybe older than that, living in a world run by people who are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right now, that understand, have grown up, have entrenched different perspectives than I and, people older than me have.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. Maybe it will go downhill, but I have faith.
As long as there is life, there's hope. If we succeed in avoiding any true catastrophes, that would threaten us existentially, then there's hope, and there's hope that people will make things better and come closer to the ideal goal to me, which is everybody just living in peace. I don't really care what it is people do or don't do, as long as they're just leaving each other alone, and then we can build from there. And that would happen naturally. Even the most shut-in people that I know still appreciate human contact and human company. It's something about us. We tend towards other people. We are social creatures. The problem is when you press somebody until you make them uncomfortable, they can pull back from that. I think we'd see a lot more generosity in this world if we had more of this, basic sense that we discussed tonight in place. It's the losing touch with these basic things that's hurting us. It's really nothing so complicated. It's sad.
No, you're right. And as bad and terrible as shit can get, the opposite is possible and has been done. So that's why I have faith. I know shit looks really dark right now, and a lot of people are looking at it sort of as the end of the world, entertainment, the end of the world, whatever you're looking at it as. But for me, it's a learning moment. I think the younger generation is going to grow up with this etched in the back of their brain, and shit's going to be different. When they come in power.
I'm in your camp. I maintain an optimistic viewpoint. If I didn't, I would have to kill myself. So I have to be optimistic for the future, and I have to have a hope. I have had people tell since before 1999, right around that time is probably when it started for me. When I started hearing knuckleheads telling me that the end of the world was tomorrow. And I mean, this has happened, I think, every year since then, where there's been some reason why, oh, well, that's it. You call a tune to civilization, call a tune to all of us. Maybe some of us will survive deep in a cave, but that's it. And it hasn't happened yet. And I'm 43. I don't see it happening. People have their opinions, and that's fine. Again, we run into the same problem with the discussion that we were talking about before, which is when I start to detect a tone of wishful thinking. Now you're very close to making an enemy of me, and I'm about to get a little nasty, because if that's what you want, for all our problems, we do enjoy a relative peace, at least here in the United States, and you want to wish this away, and you want an apocalypse so you could be the king of a little small fuck you then. If that's what you want, I don't really want to hear from you. You can just fucking go away. And
And that is a good point and a good distinction to make, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, because there is a fine line. between wishful thinking and what we like to call reality.
Yeah. Is it up for discussion? Sure. And I every time somebody approaches me with one of these new things, I'll sit and listen, and I'll give it, some thought. In many cases, I'll say, yeah, that's disturbing. But I tend not to the view that, well, simply everything's going to collapse and we're all going to be living underground. I mean, it's just barring some sort of catastrophic event, truly catastrophic. And even then, the resiliency of human beings is unparalleled by any other species on Earth. It's just what it is. It's how we are. We're insidious little fuckers. And some of us are going to climb back up to the surface and we're going to rebuild the fucking thing. So I don't know what, I just, that's part of who I am to believe that.
Yeah. And I mean, apparently there's aliens now and there's all sorts of weird shit going on. I don't know if you want to get into that. I know we're sort of running out of time. If you had anything you wanted to come here to talk about that you're doing currently, feel free to, if I can bring, like, what are you doing currently?
What aren't I doing? My one thing that I would talk about, I do a weekly show now. It's Crypto Degenerates.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot of fun and we try to talk about some crypto.
How can we listen to that?
What's that?
How can we listen to that?
You just go to YouTube. It's actually a video show. We just started actually doing it in 4K. So if you have one of those nice fancy TVs, you can watch in high def. Yeah. And we do a lot of bullshitting as well, kind of like we did tonight. In fact, we were discussing a possibility of doing a more generic show since there's a limited amount of things you can talk about in cryptocurrency. But that's really of great interest for me. I follow the Ghost project that I mentioned earlier very closely. And so I'm really into that. I continue to publish, although I haven't written in a while. And just trying to live like everybody else. That's really what it is. I don't have anything to promote right now per se. I've been bogged down with life and trying to live with this reality that's been created for me, like everybody else.
Well, so say the name again. Crypto Exchange.
Crypto Degenerates.
Crypto Degenerates. Check out Crypto Degenerates. I'm gonna go online and follow you guys right now. I'm actually interested in learning about crypto. I don't know enough, and I feel like it's been bubbling on the surface for so long, and it needs to be learned about for everyone.
If you go back, we've done it for a few months, and in a bunch of those shows, we do subjects like storing your money safely and smartly, and get into great detail about what people should and shouldn't do. So it's one of our big things. We don't want to see people coming in and making mistakes, so we tend to talk about it maybe more than we should. If you're not aware, this is something you should be aware of, because every time I open up the crypto news, I see some news of a scam or somebody lost a lot of money because they handled their shit right. So people need to be careful. There are things you got to know, but on the other hand, it shouldn't be intimidating because it is a finite thing. It's just technology. If you learned how to use a computer, you can learn how to use cryptocurrency. There's no magic to it. If there is any magic, it's in the cryptography. I mean, that shit can be magical to a lot of people. And I admit most of it is above my head, but it's what makes the whole thing work. And you don't need to understand that to use it or to be part of it. So don't worry about it.
Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely check it out. And another thing I wanted to touch on, and I don't know if you want to get into this, but is the Pentagon saying that they have recovered alien crafts? Are you into that at all, or have you? What's your view on? I've heard crazy shit. I mean, I believe aliens are real, but how are they involved in humanity, if at all?
Oh God, I can't imagine they'd be very impressed. I mean, truthfully, you start to think about the grim possibilities that arise from a spacefaring creature that is able to travel the long distances they would have to travel to get here, and then finding us. I don't know that they'd be too thrilled with what they found. Now, I've heard a lot of different speculation on a lot of different lines. And that's what all of it is basically speculation. Now, could our governments be colluding with them already? Maybe. Could they be here already disguised in human skin? Maybe. I haven't seen any convincing proof one way or the other. So I allow these as possibilities. I'm not the type of person to say, oh, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. I know that we hear about truths often through conspiracy theories before they become the truths that people accept. It's just what it is. If very few people know something and other people hear it, they're going to think it's fantastic. Of course they are. So I don't dismiss it out of hand because some crazy people talk about it. And some of these people are fucking crazy. I mean, you just take one look in their eyes and you realize they're nuts. So now you realize your source is compromised. So it becomes a little more difficult. I still listen and still say, well, maybe that's possible, but I'd like to see some proof. And, unfortunately, with a lot of the types of people that write and publish in these areas, they'll sit there and they'll say, well, the government, they'll pick apart some video that the government did to show why it's fake. And then they'll, as proof, show you some grainy video that they have and expect you to accept it at face value. And it's like, guys, you're saying that videos can be doctored, but I should just accept that yours isn't. Well, I've looked in your eyes, man, and you're nuts. So I don't think I'm going to accept that. It could be hard to sort through. Probability tells me that there's other life in this universe. I mean, I almost have to be, I think, a little stupid not to believe that. Yeah. But some people seem to believe it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole for hours about this, which we don't have time for. But the fact that the Pentagon admitted to it is just shocking to me. But your point about them traveling for thousands of miles and finding us and being disappointed, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree. I think another life form finding life, regardless of, we found some amoebas on an asteroid and we were freaking out. So I think maybe you're assuming that they're sort of higher consciousness, not violent, which they probably would be if they had this.
I'm not even assuming that. I'm just assuming if they're anything like us, we got a problem. That's all I'm saying.
That is 100% true. And if they were anything like us and they found us, that means if they are like us and they found us, that means they're not powerful enough to attack, because they probably would. And if they haven't attacked and they are more conscious or powerful, whatever, that means they're peaceful.
I mean, listen, you and I would look back at it. If we met a conquistador, we would consider him to be one of the most ignorant. Just, you'd be like, you fucking.
Right. That's a good point.
You don't know shit. You're a caveman. But these conquistadors, nonetheless, were able to land on foreign shores and find people there wearing nothing but a loincloth and look at them and say, Jesus fucking Christ, and we don't even hate you, but shit, right? So God knows what they're going to think when they see us.
That's so true. I didn't even think about it like that. And apparently when we did land on the shores of Hawaii, the natives couldn't even physically see our ships because it was so unfathomable. And that's probably not true, but that's just a story I've heard.
Right. And, they passed that down. They probably didn't understand what the hell they were looking at. Right. I mean, you would think if you lived on an island.
Dragon or something.
Yeah. Listen, we would not be, I don't think, all of that. If you look at everything that's been done in popular culture and you look at everything else, science fiction has a history now that's over 100 years. We've been filling people's heads with ideas that are potentially fantastic. They're fantastic when they're written down, but they become almost second nature to us. And there are people who say, oh, the world would be completely unprepared for an alien landing. I don't believe that. And maybe 100 years ago they would have been, but now I think people would be able to wrap their heads around what they're looking at. They'd be okay.
No, you're right. You're right. And apparently, I don't know if you're familiar with Tom DeLonge. He's a really interesting story. Are you familiar with Tom DeLonge? All right, wait. I'm gonna pee really quick. I'm really sorry. I'm like about to pee my pants. So let's take 2 seconds, and then I'll tell you about Tom DeLonge, and we'll wrap up.
Sounds good.
All right, sorry about that.
Oh yeah, not a problem.
Anyway, Tom DeLonge was the lead singer of Blink 182. You know Blink 182?
Yes.
So he started this company called Academy to the Stars. He claims that he was approached by government officials who asked him to help create media to slowly integrate the idea that aliens were real into the American public. And they gave him all this information. And so far, he's gone out and talked about this. So far, what he's said has been corroborated. So if what he's saying is true, the CIA, FBI, Pentagon is using this guy, Tom DeLonge, and you should look him up. It's an interesting story. Academy to the Stars is his company. They're using this guy to sort of slowly break the news that aliens are real. And the patterns are sort of making sense because the Pentagon just said they recovered crafts and all that shit. So this is what Tom DeLonge is saying, and no one believed it at first because he's the lead singer of fucking Blink 182.
A little odd.
But I'm starting to fucking believe him. I think they might be using him, and he's putting out videos, and it's a weird fucking thing. It's a really weird situation.
What is the fucking point? I don't understand. Just
That's
fucking.
my question.
Yeah. What do you think people are going to start screaming in the streets, pulling their skin off because aliens landed? I don't understand what they're so worried about.
That's my point. Like, are they really that worried about how we're going to react? The other thing is, like, why would Tom DeLonge? The thing that validates Tom DeLonge is his company, his board, everyone that's involved is ex-Pentagon, ex-military, high up, legit people, and you can look up their names, and they will say that they're working with him. So why would they be working with him? You know what I mean?
And man, how the hell did he go from singing Blink 182 to doing this shit?
Thank you. That's my. I mean, look up his interview with Joe Rogan and check out his credentials on his website. Like these high up military people are actually a part of his company.
Well, listen, I certainly allow it as a possibility. I do have to say that I don't know what it is they think is going to happen if people are told this. And unless there's some other reason why we should need to be warmed up to the idea, because all right, what now you start looking for the club over your head. What's the fucking club? Do they want to enslave us? Why won't you tell us that they're fucking there?
I sort of get it though, because humanity can be a little bit fucking idiotic. You never know how the average person. I mean, I shouldn't say average person because I'm the average person. But I'm interested in this stuff. I educate myself about everything I can. Maybe people would freak out. I don't fucking know.
Well, if you told me 5 years ago that people would be fucking freaking out like they are about a virus, I would have said you're crazy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But anyway, I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. I think it's worth just looking into it because it's just so fucking bizarre.
That sounds very bizarre. Yeah, what a strange.
And I wouldn't believe it unless he was actually working with these high up people. Like they're actually legit people.
Huh.
So they put their name on the line.
Right. Oh, well, for what that's worth these days.
Yeah, seriously. Well, Rob, I really appreciate you coming back on. I always appreciate you coming on and talking with us. Hans had to go on a date, so he left, but it's just me and you talking anyway. But you're always welcome on here, and I feel like there's a million more topics we could dive into. I feel like I could talk to you for like 6 hours straight, but
these are fun, man. We'll do another one soon. Let's not wait as long, and we'll just just kind of get together and chat. Cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Seriously, anytime you want to come on. I know it was a long period of time. We sort of stopped putting out episodes for a while, but we're back. We're back in it, and we're going to try to build this thing to keep the momentum going from where it was. We sort of stopped for a couple months and lost some listeners, so we're trying to build it back up. But people always fucking love your episode. We've gotten a ton of great feedback from it. So
Cool.
thank you.
Anytime. So we'll talk soon.
Awesome.
All
Guys,
right.
Rob Loggia, check out Crypto Degenerates. Also, his Twitter is @LoggiaOnFire, right?
Loggia on Fire. Yeah, is the Twitter.
Loggia. I'm pronouncing your name wrong?
No, Loggia on Fire. Yeah, Loggia.
Loggia on Fire. And you have a blog too as well, our website.
LoggiaOnFire.com. Yeah.
LoggiaOnFire.com. Check him out. He's the man. Thank you, Rob.
Rather than do any of that, go pick up a history book. And that would be a better use of your time. Start to learn some of the things that we've done and have been through collectively, because you'll see they're very much like what's happening now.
Yeah,
So,
can you recommend 3 books right now? You recommended 1 already. Recommend 2 or 3 more.
well, let's see here. What do we got?
Because people will actually listen to this and they'll buy these books.
Yeah, well, some of these can be hard to find. Here's a good one. Sickles the Incredible.
Is that the general? I was going to ask you this. Who's the general behind you?
That is Dan Sickles, Major General Dan Sickles.
So
One of the most uniquely American stories that there is. He did more in a lifetime of I think 96 years than most people would be able to do in several lifetimes.
Dan Sickles.
Yeah.
Dan Sickles.
He was a Civil War general, became famous for a couple of things. One of them was his performance at Gettysburg. I say that he won that battle. Other people say he almost lost it for them, but that's a matter of dispute. He also shot the son of the person who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. Shot him.
Oh, shit.
So he's got a very, very storied history. Really, really, though, this is the best book that I've read on it. And it is an incredible, incredible viewpoint into a uniquely American human story. It doesn't get told a lot because a lot of people don't like him, but I can't help them with that. I finished the book and I like him a lot.
Another book. Awesome. So Dan Sickles, check that book out. Any other 1 or 2 more or no?
Listen, I mean, the 8 million volumes that I've read, I to begin to rattle them off. William Shearer did an excellent, excellent book on the rise and fall of the Third Reich. So that whole period with insights to the methodology that Hitler used to manipulate other world leaders and other governments, and to do what he did, which was to take over several countries before the world even declared war on him. It's fascinating. And we see people using these same techniques today to divide us. So worth reading now, if never. William Shearer is the author. He was actually a correspondent during the war, and then he went on to write a book about his experiences and what have you. It's called The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Sweet. So The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Hans. See, Hans. I'm saying about it, Hans. But yeah, guys, Rob Loggia, Rob, thank you again. Let's connect. Let's do this again. I feel like we can delve into a million different topics. I feel like you're well versed in like 700 million different things. So let's pick them apart.
Sounds good, man. Anytime.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Have a good night.
All right, take it easy. Enjoy your date.
Yeah.
Get laid.
Hans is, yeah, come on, you're going on the date.
Not yet.
He said not yet. Yeah.
No, now there's no time like the present moment.
Yeah, come on.
Never.
Hans has
I
been
will
dating
get laid.
around a little bit.
I will get laid.
Yeah, you will get laid. This is a second date tonight.
Oh,
So she
come
told
on.
me that the second date would be the one. So this is the one. But Rob, thank you. We wish you, your family well. Let's do this again soon.
Same to you. Talk soon.